9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everybody. It's your host, Huge Pop, from the Huge Pop Entertainment Network. Our guest tonight is a versatile professional wrestling veteran for over 35 years. He's out through the independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2025. He's managed, he's reffed, he's announced. Welcome to the show, Luke Roberts, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful tonight. Being here, drop the mic, Huge Pop Entertainment. We're going to be talking not just everything about the independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, but we're going to talk wrestling in general. And again, tonight, right here, Huge Pop Entertainment, you're going to have the opportunity to learn more about myself, but you're also going to learn a lot about the history of St. Louis professional wrestling, one of the meccas, as many would say, of the professional wrestling world. And tonight, we're going to have an opportunity to dive just a little bit into the world of professional wrestling here in the greater St. Louis area. And again, my honor and privilege to be here this evening with you.
Thank you for that extra intro there. I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on the podcast tonight. Man, I've seen some other interviews, and you've mentioned that you've never thought that you'd be part of the Hall of Fame. And so when you got that announcement and that opportunity to be part of that, what was that feeling like? How did that solidify your career? What was going on there?
Well, first of all, to be a part of the 2025 class of the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame really came as a shock to me, because when I sit there and I look at, and I would go back and I'd look at the history of the Hall of Fame here in the St. Louis area, there weren't too many referees, there weren't too many announcers that had been in the Hall of Fame, and you always get that feeling when you do interviews or you have conversations with people, and you're like, I just wonder what it would be like for one day, just like if you're in the NFL, Major League Baseball, and you're on the writers ballot, you have that opportunity, and all of a sudden you get the call. And like I said, I've done a lot of things in pro wrestling, but ironically, one of the things I've really focused on in the last few years is taking to the world of social media. And ironically, one of the programs that I am the program director for actually kind of pulled the wool over my eyes. I'm one of those where I'm perfectly fine with having everything down. Boom, 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 boom. This is what's got to be done. And 30 seconds into the interview, I'm like, okay, there goes the format. Here goes this, here goes that. And things just kind of changed. And I mean, again, when it comes down to it, you never expect a call like that to happen, but to be in the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, and kind of ironically, not only was I announced as an inductee, but I was also announced as a member of the board of directors, which that totally shocked me.
Wow.
But when it comes down to it, I mean, again, you always wonder, have I done enough? Have I given everything that I can? Have I left it, as they say, in the ring? And when I got that call, it was by far one of the greatest days professionally of my career.
And then I'm reading through your little notes here, and you were inducted alongside a Harley Race, local staples like Mark Bland and Mischief. What was that feeling? I'm just being inducted with those guys. Man, that must have been a hell of an honor, man.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, when you sit down and you look at the class of 2025, and for those that haven't had an opportunity to make it a point here on the program, if you want to follow along with us, hashtag Huge Pop Entertainment, but also www.istlwhof.com. You can look at all the inductees. And sitting here looking at the class of 2025, you look at the likes of Ace Strange, former champion in the MMWA. longtime manager Doc Lombardi, the Irish Devil Douglas O'Shea, a man who, ironically, my first official tag team matchup in my career was with Douglas O'Shea. You can imagine that full circle. He takes to his Irish heritage. He gets the fans not to like him. Rest is history. But when you look at others like Ed Smith, Frank Reed, Jeremy Lightfoot, Mark Bland, Mischief, again, an individual who still to this day, even though we're both in the same Hall of Fame class, a woman who still scares me to death.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, we had an opportunity and we were talking, we were enjoying the day of the induction. And I shook her hand and I gave her congratulations. And I said, please, 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 please don't scream. And she's like, well, why not? Because you scream, I'm going to wind up under the table.
Yeah.
Because that woman scares me to death. But again, when you look at that, you get that the human wrecking ball, Pete Madden, an individual that trained me in the wrestling industry, a man who's gone out there and wrestled everything and everybody. And trust me, later on, I can give you the opportunity where I did an event where I had to call play-by-play where he was actually wrestling a potted tree.
Wow. A potted tree.
And he managed to get the crowd to be supporting the tree. Sadie Blaze, the Wind of Destruction Makazi, and Steve Sharp, a man who actually spent time in WCW in the final months of the promotion. To be in a class with those individuals alone is unreal. And then when you go back and you look at some of the other inductees, the likes of a Spike Huber, like a Herb Simmons, like one of my other trainers, John Blackheart, when you go back and you look at all the names that have gone into the Hall of Fame, you kind of sit back and go, am I really here? And you got to pinch yourself. You really do. Because when you sit there and you look at what all these individuals have accomplished, and you're in that rare group,
Yeah,
I mean, again, sometimes it's hard to explain.
Yeah, and you mentioned Herb Simmons, owner president of SICW, man, and he's the one that brought my knowledge to Midwest wrestling in St. Louis. And we talk about the chase, we talk about old school wrestling, and I tell you what, you guys up in St. Louis area, if you guys nail anything, it's old school wrestling. It's stuff.
It's very true. And again, it's ironic that you bring up Herb Simmons. True story. When I first started wrestling, being involved in wrestling, and again, for your viewers here, and a shout out here to Nikki O'Shaughnessy as well. To give you an idea, when I was first getting in the wrestling industry at the age of 10, yes, that's not a fib, that's not a joke. I was sitting back, I was doing sound, I was running ring jackets, I was helping sell merchandise, I was doing it all. But I remember when I was first starting to do ring music and really first kind of cutting my teeth into the wrestling industry, Herb Simmons was the guy doing play-by-play. He was sitting right in front of me. And being able even then to sit under the learning tree of a Herb Simmons. I mean, again, man's been in wrestling nearly 50 years. He's an officer for the Cauliflower Alley Club. He's won awards there. He's won the MWR Lifetime Achievement Award. Matter of fact, at the SICW Fan Fest, I believe he's going to be inducted into the Wrestling at the Chase, or the Classic Wrestling, however you wish to call it, Hall of Fame here in St. Louis as well. And again, when it comes down to it, he's a part of our Hall of Fame as well. But as you said, when you talk about pro wrestling, there's a lot of great places you can talk about wrestling. You can talk about places like New York. You can talk about places like Florida or Tennessee or the Carolinas, right, or Portland or Texas or San Francisco or LA or Detroit. But when it comes down to it, when you, to quote a line that I heard Ric Flair, among others, said, that the late Sam Muchnick said, when you were a pro wrestler, you knew you made it when you were in St. Louis. And to be here in St. Louis, the lineage of pro wrestling definitely is very, very huge here in our area.
Absolutely. I'm going to go through some quotes out the chat that we got here. Luke Roberts, you've accomplished so much and more. We got Jimmy Harris. Man, I feel older the more he talks. There you go.
Yeah, I could see Jim Harris throwing that out there now and again. But no, again, got a lot of great comments here. And again,
one of my good friends in the podcast business, Luke, my guy. Love you, man. Yeah.
Rick is a great guy too. And I mean, again, when you sit down and you look at it, I mean, again, that's one of the best things about pro wrestling is the people you meet, the traveling you get to do, the individuals that you get to come in contact with. I'm gonna kind of break away from the hall for just a minute. I want to tell a true story. About 4 or 5 years ago, had an opportunity to meet a promoter out in the Pacific Northwest, a gentleman by the name of Jeff Manning. And I knew he was a little bit apprehensive just because I'm a young guy. I mean, well, in his eyes, I was a young guy. But getting a chance to sit down and talk with him and talk old school wrestling, really grown a strong connection with him. And as time went on, I get to learn a little bit more. I mean, again, St. Louis has its own history, but he was able to give me a lot more about the Pacific Northwest. Had an opportunity to talk about a series that I know you're very familiar with, the 7 Levels of Hate. And he actually had one of those matches in his promotion, WCWC, up in the greater Portland, Salem area. And since that point, having the opportunity to meet him there, having went to the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion, and the opportunity of him saying, hey, why don't you talk to this guy? And less than 10 minutes later, between Jeff Manning and Herb Simmons, I'm sitting there hearing stories from Ross Hart.
Wow.
I mean, again, just the travels and the stories and the people you meet and the things that you do in this industry, that's what it's worth to me. I mean, it's not just the bumps and the bruises. It's the people you meet along the way. And again, it's been a great experience for as long as I've been around the sport.
Absolutely. You said something, I have had the opportunity to go to River City WrestleCon back 3 years ago at St. Augustine, Florida, and people were paying tickets to get Sting's autograph and, standing in line to get other people's autographs, and I had the opportunity to walk over to Jimmy Hart and we talked for 10 minutes, and Boogeyman, just those, and I didn't get no autographs, I didn't get anything. I took away the conversations that they gave, the stuff that they talked to me about, the encouragement. So knowing just those guys and being just a chance to sit down with those people, and they treated you like they were their long lost friend, So I was excited to do that. So I get that part, I have Hubert Stenson says, I'm honored to and privileged to be inducted into the class of 2026 Hall of Fame. So we're gonna talk to you about you in a little bit. So stay tuned. We have another comment. Glad to see you, the great techno kid, on air. That's good. The brotherhood.
I feel so old now.
I mean, I love my chat. I love what they do. So the brotherhood and sisterhood of wrestling can be matched.
Very true.
Very true. So, man, you were a man that wore a lot of hats. You were a referee, you were a wrestler, you were an announcer and a commentator. Wrestling and this stuff, it has to bring joy to keep on going. You have to have joy. So what of any of those, if not all of them, brought joy to you the most?
What brought joy to me the most? Honestly, to me, I think the thing that brought the most joy to me, it really kind of depended on the situation. Being a wrestler, the idea of, and I know a lot of people that know me are gonna be surprised by this, was when you're the bad guy and getting fans to boo you. It's a weird way to look at it, but when you know you're getting a reaction out of the crowd, that right there was one of them. Having the respect of people and I mean, again, having the opportunity, and I want to go here. One of the things about pro wrestling, and you hear it a lot, and I know you and I have talked about it off air, is the idea of, even though you're in the industry of professional wrestling, we all start being a fan. And you talked about how meeting Jimmy Hart and meeting the Boogeyman. This is one that's in my office. Not a lot of people know this, probably outside of my broadcast colleagues, Chris Rodell and the Night Owl, Renee Martinez. When I went to the Cauliflower Alley Club and participated in their event, I took a picture. And ironically, 5 months later, when I went to the Trago Estes Hall of Fame, I got to see these two individuals again. Now, I'm going to bring this up here a little bit. The gentleman on the right, you probably don't know. Legendary referee James Beard.
Okay, no, you're right.
Gentleman on I believe it'd be your left looking at the screen. Everybody knows as John Bradshaw Layfield.
Yes.
Now, when you sit there and, I mean, I'm not going to fit. When I was a wrestler, I was about 120 pounds. I was a little itty bitty guy, a cruiserweight in every stretch of the word. But as I've gone along in this business, probably the biggest thing to me has been the respect, the acknowledgement. I mean, when you sit there and you can have conversations with JBL as a part of the Cauliflower Alley Club, or the idea of, and to this day, another true story, about 12, 13 years ago, actually got stopped in my local Walmart to sign an autograph.
Wow. All right.
Now here I am. I'm with my wife. I'm literally in the frozen foods, and I have somebody come up with a notepad and a piece of paper. Hey, Luke Roberts, can you give me your autograph? And again, getting those kind of reactions is like, am I really that important? Am I really making that kind of an impact in people's lives? And again, having the opportunity for that, and a lot of the wrestlers that I'm seeing in the likes of Dynamo Pro Wrestling. Matter of fact, we were talking this past weekend at a promotion that I was at called Cottage Hills Wrestling Alliance.
Okay.
And having a lot of their wrestlers who've been a couple of years in the industry saying, hey, Lou, what do you think about this? What can I do about that? And just having people come up to me. I'm no different than anybody else. But if you value my opinion, you value what I've done in this industry, I must have done something right. And like I said, that really is probably the big thing, is just making sure that people know that everything that I did had a purpose and it impacted somebody in a way that they were looking for.
So you've been in the business for a couple of decades. So you started early and now to now. So what would be the biggest change in the St. Louis region, that territory, to now? So from when you started to now, what would be one of the biggest changes?
Well, Pop, I'm gonna put this simple. When I first started in the wrestling industry, late 80s, early 90s, outside of your WWF, your WCW, or NWA, for those that are more familiar here in the Midwest, there weren't a lot of independent promotions. Actually, when I started in professional wrestling, there was technically only two.
Okay.
One was MMWA SICW, and no, that's not a joke. They were at one point working together as a collaborative. And the other was a promotion called RCW, Rampage Championship Wrestling.
Okay.
Pardon me. And as time goes on, things change. Mid-90s, you get the internet. About the time you start seeing GCW, Gateway Championship Wrestling. Well, actually, I should say MRW into GCW. And they changed the landscape. RCW, MMWA, SCW are the old school traditional wrestling. MRW and GCW kick it up a notch, having wrestlers like Nova, Rob Van Dam, Sandman, Balls Mahoney, New Jack, among others, to come into this area. And now, as time has gone on, there are so many great promotions. And that's one of the things that really surprises a lot of people. If you look at the St. Louis market, I remember having a conversation with a broadcast colleague of mine, a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Karp. And we had a conversation, and there are 13 different promotions as the last check in the St. Louis metropolitan area.
13.
And you would figure, okay, that's about 8, 9 too many.
Right.
And Big Jim Hofarth checking in here tonight, right here on the program. You never know who's going to tune in to drop the mic. You really don't as you go along here.
No. Right.
But as you look at it, I mean, again, as you look at things, everybody, not only just the amount of promotions that are there, but how everybody has their own niche. You have promotions like MMWA, SICW, Dynamo Pro Wrestling, who are very traditional, very old school mindset. Then you get promotions like CHWA, like IEW, like St. Louis Anarchy, like Glory Pro, like WrestleMax, like I can go on and on with that. You can talk about promotions like IEW. You can talk about promotions like WLW, home of the starting point, so to speak, for a lot of wrestlers through the legendary Harley Race. There's a lot of promotions in the St. Louis area, but everybody has their own niche. Everybody is going to have their own segment of fans. And if you would have said even 10 years ago that there would be able to have, there was an event back in March that CHWA had their event, which featured the King of the Hills Rumble.
Okay.
We were running an event, and 3 other promotions were running events that same night. All 4 of them had sellout crowds.
Wow, that's crazy.
That shows right then and there that wrestling's alive and well in St. Louis. Everybody has their own niche. And that's one thing I have to say is probably the biggest change. That, and of course, the wonderful world of technology. When I first got in here, I thought I was all that in a bag of chips. When I got to do an interview on a GeoCities website, and again, dated reference, I know, in 1997, and nowadays, if you don't have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok,
Right.
whatever you have, I mean, you got to have such a huge internet presence just as much as you being in the ring and keeping yourself in shape. To me, those are probably the 2 biggest things that I would say are the change that I've seen probably most of over my course of my career.
Wow. So you were trained by Pete Maiden. So what was one of those things? What is probably the biggest thing he taught you about getting into the business?
One of the things that I learned not just from Pete, but from John Blackheart and from Billy Bob, my 3 trainers over the course of my early days. In the case of Pete told me, listen. You don't talk, you don't run your mouth, you listen. John Blackheart told me, eyes open, ears open, mouth shut. And Billy Bob basically told me that you're going to be in a contact sport. And as I said, my first match, I weighed at best 125 pounds. Best. My first opponent was the same height as me, but weighed 500 pounds.
Holy cow.
And I was scared to death. But I went out there. I did what I needed to do. I listened. Everything went according to plan. Life was good. But you know, Pete told me to listen, to keep quiet. I remember one night I was training with the man, and he picks me up, and he's like, as he picks me up, he's like, don't move. Okay. Boom. I get slammed in the middle of the ring. And again, being young, being a little bit naive, still being kind of, how they say, green. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I look up. Pete jumps on the top rope. Another trainer tosses him a chair. I see him leave a turnbuckle, and I'm going, oh my. And I saw, you see in the light flash before your eyes. Crazy thing of it all, I was able to walk out of that ring. A few hours later, a little bit of difference. Broke his leg. Same move. That's one of the things you learn is you got to be able to sit down. You got to listen. You don't know everything. And I'll tell you, with nearly 40 years in the industry, I still don't know everything. I wish I knew more. I wish I could go to a lot of things. But when it comes down to it, you're always learning. And as Harley Race told me once, if you're not getting the butterflies, if those lights aren't giving you the goosebumps, then you need to be done. And I can say with all the time in wrestling, I still get those goosebumps to this very day.
I can relate to goosebumps. I talked to you both off camera, and I do this for my self-care. My job is taking care of foster kids. So to get out behind the screen and behind a mic and talk to guys like you does so much for my self-care. It gets me out of the real world and into this kind of world, the business, that I still get goosebumps. I still get nervous. I still say, hey, so I totally 100% agree with what you're saying. Once those goosebumps are done, once that nervousness is done, I might as well be done. So that made a whole lot of sense of what you said. We got people blowing up. We got Jimmy, man. He says, trained a lot when I started and was working a ton of shows in a heartbeat and learned from every single person and the match and promoter. We have another one saying, good night, Mr. Scott. Hi. Say hi to Mr. Rudy and Mr. Ty. Thank you. Then we have one more. And there was the MVWA Pro Report with Steve Murphy and some jabroni named Tom Simon. So before you respond to that.
Yeah, real quick and simple for those of you that know, back in the day, back when, again, another name from the past, the legendary Blackjack Brown and the Blackjack Report. In St. Louis, there was a thing called Postline back in 1997. And you had, if you pressed 1, you got the Blackjack Brown Report. Number 2, you got the MVWA Pro Report. And it was always running. I mean, it was like the 900 lines of the day. And again, to hear that's another blast from the past. And again, just sitting back and kind of hearing these stories and the things that are there, and going back and looking at some of these individuals who are going to be going into the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, Pop, it's really is kind of unique in seeing these wrestlers who've done so much for the industry and how they've managed to not only make their mark and give everything they have, but a lot of them have taken their time in pro wrestling, much like you would see in a WWE or an AEW.
Right.
And they let that manifest into something that's even bigger. And again, some of these people we're going to talk about here later in the interview, a lot of these individuals, if they wouldn't have done what they've done, there are so many things that would not be the same even to this day.
So I got to ask you, man, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 masks behind you.
Oh yeah.
So
I got
what are the meaning? Are you a mask guy? Are you, is that one of your favorite, is Lucha one of your favorite things, or can you explain that to us fans?
Well, one of the things I was always taught in pro wrestling, and I'm going to give a shout out, and I know some of the listeners are going to be amazed at who I'm going to bring up. I'm going to bring up one individual, a man who I feel studies a great deal about professional wrestling and knows a lot about pro wrestling. That's a gentleman by the name of Travis Cook. For those that are in the St. Louis area, he for a long time was at Dynamo Pro. For many years, he's been a part of SICW. One of the things that Travis and I have always kind of clicked on, and there's been some others who've been along with it, is the idea of you never stop learning and you never stop appreciating pro wrestling. As you see, you've got your masks back here. You've got things like back here. I've got a framed all-in original poster that I managed to get when I was at the Hall of Fame. You can't really see him as well, but if you look far back in the back, huge Funko guy. Lots of wrestling images. Give you an idea here. Another one that was there, wrestling books. And yes, I do read them. I read them regularly. Most recent one by the legendary J.J. Dillon.
Yeah.
And going back and looking and hearing some of the stories of a J.J. Dillon, just kind of looking at what I can see here from on the camera. The Briscos, talking about Wahoo McDaniel, the Grappler, Harley Race, Jerry Lawler, Brian Blair. Another one I want to share with your viewers, if you haven't had an opportunity, and I want to give a shout out here to a man I met at CAC, a gentleman by the name of Brennan Martin. Teeny, Professional Wrestling's great Grand Dame. This is actually a book about Christine Teeny Jarrett.
Oh, wow.
I got this at the CAC, and I was like, okay, I don't know. And I'll level with you. I had it read before I got back to St. Louis on the airplane.
Wow.
And that's one of the things I love about pro wrestling is the idea you always learn something new. I remember when I was 7, 8 years old, and I was sitting in a little itty bitty 2-bedroom house in Piedmont, Missouri. For those that don't know, Piedmont, Missouri only had about 2,000 people at the time. And having the opportunity, I had to be sitting on the floor, dinner in front of me by 5:05 because grandma would have to adjust the rabbit ears. And we had to be ready at 5:05 so she could watch Georgia Championship Wrestling and she could see the likes of a Dusty Rhodes, of a Thunderbolt Patterson, of the Four Horsemen, later on a Magnum TA, Paul Jones, among others. And again, that's one of the things. And I'll level, and I know for those that are watching, if anybody knows anything about me, my wife is one of those where when we first got married, she's like, are you ever going to stop watching wrestling? And she looked at it one week, and in a 7-day week, I would spend at least 2 hours a day in live wrestling.
Wow.
And it wasn't just WWE. It was WWE. It was WCW. It was back when ECW was still on TNN. I had a channel to watch Lucha. I had the opportunity to watch things like ICW and WXW and AAA and CMLL. And again, I love every bit of it. I mean, again, it's like I said, the little kid in me hasn't grown up. And I won't lie to your viewers, I'm nearly 50 years old. And I still love, and again, to quote the line from the franchise Shane Douglas, I still love the sport of professional wrestling. It's not sports entertainment to me. It is the sport of professional wrestling. And that's what draws a lot of fans, is because we enjoy what's brought up. We enjoy what's being brought to television and being presented to us. And again, that's the story. That's how it is. I mean, it hooked me at 7, 8 years old and hasn't let go since.
And I appreciate that statement because I think a lot of the top things on the social media I wish people would hear what you just said. Love the sport for what it is. But if you get it, I don't even want to give credit to this, but you hear so much about people bickering back and forth of what's this. If there were people like you and just watch the sport, for the love of the sport, I think the whole dynamic of wrestling would change.
And something, when you talk about that, is the idea of, there are a lot of people, and again, I talked about it earlier, about how things changed in the 90s when the internet comes around, and now you see people, as soon as something happens on television, within 14 seconds, oh, so-and-so did this, what's going to happen next week? I'm like, no, let it go. Let it have the opportunity. It's like the great dramas in life. And you even go back to the early days of the Greeks and the Romans, who tell their stories of comedy and tragedy, the good versus evil. And I mean, again, it's a story as old as time. And having the opportunity to see those things and seeing them on a grand stage. I mean, in the span of a month, I watched 50,000 people at WrestleMania. And then I'm sitting, less than a week later, I'm sitting in a crowd of 125 people screaming at the top of their lungs and having the opportunity. And I want to give a shout out here too. It's not to a wrestler. It's not to a promotion. There's a woman who, as of late, has been coming to all sorts of local independent wrestling shows. And she brings actual hand-drawn portraits of the wrestlers. And I'm talking like full artist pad drawings of these individuals. And I'll tell you right now, my broadcast colleague Chris Rodell had that. And I mean, I got lots of cool stuff here in my office. I mean, I got Funkos, I've got championship belts, I've got books, I've got masks, you name it. But when you sit down and you look at it and you get somebody who takes the time out of their day to draw an 11 by 17 drawing of you based off a picture, and it looks amazing, like I say, like a true artist did it, that shows that people genuinely care about what we do. and having those kinds of things. To quote the line, and again, I'm not going to finish it because I'm pretty respectful. It's still real to me. You heard it in the NWA, and you're going to hear it now. It's still real to me.
I got to show you something. You talk about hand-drawn stuff, and this is probably one of my dearest pieces. My niece, who is like 18, and she is in a school in an art school in Ohio. I sent her pictures of Mick Foley. I was going to have an opportunity to meet Mick Foley, and that was probably the coolest thing. So she came up with this. This is what she hand drew.
Wow, that's impressive. It truly is.
That is that, and then she has another one she did for me. Not as in depth, but that was one of her first ones she did with John Bradfield and Simmons. So Ron Simmons. So that was so.
That's the best thing about wrestling. It truly is. The idea of when you get the opportunity to experience those kinds of things. One of our viewers, and I'm not going to mention any names right this second, unless he wants to mention it, then I'm totally fine with that. One of my wrestling compatriots here in the St. Louis area has gone to a point. Actually, it's two of them. I got one that I'm thinking about though right now. That's actually gone back and started collecting the old Hasbro and the LJN figures from back in the day. Yeah. And there's a gentleman, and again, for anybody who's watching Drop the Mic, who's watching Huge Pop Entertainment right now, and I know that he's gonna giggle when I say his name. There's a wrestler here in the St. Louis area called Slammer. If you get an opportunity, check him out on social media. This man has gone as far, and I had an opportunity to do a video tour of his office. He has all four walls in sealed LJN figures.
Wow.
In card. Never been pulled. He's got things like the company that made the late Hulk Hogan's weight belts has made him weight belts. He's got autographed photos. He's got, just so much stuff and you just acquire. And that's the cool thing, is that there's so much needs. Again, prime example here. Yeah, I'm kind of having my moment here. I'm wearing my squared circle t-shirt. And for those that don't know, this was actually the pizza restaurant that WWE's Victoria owned in Chicago.
Nice.
And I went to a conference one day. I just happened, this was just back when Uber and Lyft were the things. And I wound up taking the blue line, and then I wound up taking an Uber to there. And it happened. I got to sit and talk with Victoria right there in a restaurant.
That's awesome.
Again, you never know what happens.
No.
Until you take that chance. And again, that's one of those, like, as you talk about there, it's something that wrestling fans, again, they are what make this industry what it is today.
Absolutely. Fans that are watching this show and those that are going to watch it later on, make sure you go to YouTube at Huge Pop Wrestling, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Facebook channel, keep on supporting. Thank you for all the chats. We're talking about books, and I had the opportunity to have Wolfie D on the podcast a couple months ago, and that's a good book. If you want to get a good, easy read, he tells the stuff, all his stories of all his encounters, even how family issues that he had to deal with getting into the business. So that's another good read if you haven't had a chance to get that. So one of the funnest things on my podcast, I love to ask the question: locker room ribs, road stories, and if anybody, if you ever had any gear malfunctions.
Well, okay, I'm gonna start this one. Had an opportunity. And it was, I probably wasn't more than a couple years in the wrestling industry. When you're a youngster in the wrestling industry, you're always taught, keep your gear bag in your car because you don't know when you're going to get a booking. Just happened, I had my gear bag in a car. I wrestled a match in a place called the Horse Palace in St. Charles, Missouri. It's no longer in existence now. And yes, it was a rodeo barn. And I'm walking to the ring, and I was wrestling a gentleman, and he wound up hitting me so hard right on the temple that for about a week, I didn't really have my peripheral vision out of my right side.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, this is not going to bode well. But I drew the attention of a Hall of Famer I'm going to talk about, member of the class of 2026 here in a minute. And to give you an idea, we rode in a car, and he's like, whatever you do, when you get to the last exit, you want to take the last exit. Didn't bother to tell us there was road construction.
Oh, no.
We had to drive 25 miles into Wisconsin before we could turn around. We're supposed to be at our hotel by midnight. We finally managed to get into our hotel at 2:30 in the morning. We're supposed to be meeting people for breakfast at 8 a.m. I'm sitting there at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm completely wore out. I mean, I'd wrestled the night before, and I'm getting ready to go. And I'm like, okay, I got a few minutes. I can chill out. I can take a nap. And there were two individuals. One gentleman's name is Pretty Boy Floyd. For those in the Chicagoland area, you know Pretty Boy Floyd. And a gentleman by the name of Freddie Jacobs, who was a really accomplished manager at the time. And for the record, he's going to be like Kenny Bolin. He's going to get one of those mentionees right here on the program tonight. But I'm coming back. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to get a little more sleep in. They're doing moonsaults on my bed. So I'm like, okay, this ain't happening. I guess I'm up for now. So we go, and being the young one, I kind of sat there and I listened and I did what I needed to do. And about 8 o'clock, this other car comes rolling in. And it was the guys who had been in the main event the night prior.
Right.
And one of the gentlemen came to the hotel, and to put it bluntly, he was as green as a dollar bill or a blade of grass.
Okay.
I mean, he looked like he was just feeling horrible. And I remember going to the restaurant, and the time was a place called the Old Country Buffet. Some remember his hometown buffet.
Oh.
And I remember one of the inductees, the Beast, who doesn't know a whole lot of English. And he's sitting there, eggs, flapjacks, chili, grits. And about the time he got the word grits out of his mouth, which is about probably the fourth or fifth word in English I've ever heard the man say, the gentleman who was turning green, I think, broke the record for the 40-yard dash to run to the bathroom.
Oh, no.
Because he had partied just a little too hard the night before.
Yes.
So we get that done. We go to the venue, and then we find out the ring's not going to be there. It broke down on the highway.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm not getting paid. I drove 5 hours to Chicago. I'm not going to get paid. So it winds up being that we have a brawl right there where the show was supposed to take place. Everything's good, and I took a pretty good butt kicking. I'm not going to fib. I kind of sitting there, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out where I'm at. All of a sudden, I hear, "Help me! Help me!" I'm like, "Who's this?" Another one of the bad guys had gotten shut in a locker.
All right. Yeah.
As in completely shut in the locker and couldn't get out.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
So I'm sitting there going, okay. So anyway, we're sitting there, and the promoter, we're all of a mindset of, okay, we're going to go ahead and we're supposed to get paid. We're professionals. We made this journey.
Right.
Didn't happen. But we found out that thanks to some of the connections he had with sponsors, that there was all sorts of snack foods.
Okay.
And Gatorade and water and all that. And the one thing I can remember, and he's never going to live this down, the Beast, after doing all he has done, all I remember, he was riding with somebody. All I remember is seeing him walking out, and he had his arm like this, and he had about 5 loaves of French bread, probably like yay long, tucked in his arm.
Nice.
And he's just on his way to his car. I'm like, whatever it is, my friend.
Nice.
But I mean, again, that's just one of them. I remember the one where one of my trainees from 20 plus years ago, oh, nobody's going to get me. Nobody's going to get me. I was talking to him as he was getting ready to go out to the ring. Another vet, another trainer. We were in an old Walmart building. They still had the rolly ladder. Took the guy's gear bag, climbed up the ladder, took a bicycle lock, the rope style,
Right.
wrapped it around the rafter twice.
Oh, no.
And if that wasn't enough, then basically took an entire roll of duct tape over the bike lock.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And nobody told him where it was till he was about ready to leave. It's like 3 hours later. It's like, I want to go home. And he looks up and he goes, I've been got.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
And again, that's been just some of the fun ones. I will say this. And again, Jim Harris brought up earlier, there are some other road stories that if I shared, I don't know how long we would be on the air, and you look right here, being paid with beer, soda, hot dogs, hamburgers, stale popcorn, cheese fries, getting paid with what I thought was a gift certificate. In reality, it was an expired Subway coupon.
Wow. Oh.
Let's see. I remember the one where, for some reason, the promoter decided that we were going to have food after the show, and he spent too much money on food after the show. So I walked out of the venue with a 20-pack of White Castles.
There you go.
I mean, again, there's lots of them that are that way. But I mean, again, those are the best things in wrestling, is just the idea of being able to travel with people and the stories you hear and the things that you've seen. And I mean, again, it really is just, it's beyond cool. And I'm going to tell you right now, hopefully somewhere down the road, we might have to have a drop the mic unplugged or something like that.
Yeah.
Because there are some stories in here that if I shared them, I don't know. I don't know how far some people might talk to me after them, but
all right, man. You know what?
Drop
the mic unplugged. It has to happen, man.
That is true. And again, it's one of those where there's a lot of things that are there. Another one, and I know you've heard the story because we kind of talked about wrestling from days gone by. Everybody remembers hearing the story about the first TNA pay-per-view.
Right.
When they were doing the Wednesday night shows, and the wrestler, I believe his name was Cheeks, broke the ring.
Yes.
I remember I was probably 2-3 years in the wrestling industry. And there was a gentleman who came up to St. Louis by the name of Action Jackson.
Okay.
And his finishing move, much like the Big Boss Man, was the side slam. Now, we weren't wrestling in a traditional wrestling ring. We were wrestling in a modified boxing ring.
Okay.
It wasn't steel beams and all this kind of stuff. It was basically 2x12s.
Okay.
The middle was 3 2x12s. So, I mean, you got probably 6 inches of wood.
Yep.
Hit the gentleman with the side slam hard enough, went through the center of the ring.
Dang.
Here's the catch. It was opening match of the show.
Now we got a busted ring.
And you got a busted ring. And again, remembering having to go around, and we wound up, again, that's one of the great things about wrestling is sometimes things happen that way. We managed to keep the support of the middle of the ring with 2 foot lockers up for the remainder of the show.
Wow.
It worked. One more, and I got this one here. As many people know, I was the media. I still am the media relations director for a company called Dynamo Pro Wrestling here in St. Louis. And recommended that I take the position from a gentleman by the name of TNT Kenny G. Many know him as Kenny Garrett. He's the late father of Santana Garrett, most notably known for promotions like WOW, NWA, spent some time in NXT, spent some time in TNA, so on and so forth. But anyway, we're sitting there, opening match of being media director. I go out, I do my mornings, or I do my beginning of my show stuff, saying, hey, you ready for a good time? Yeah. First match comes out. Tag team comes out. Gentleman steps on the bottom rope. By the time he steps on the second rope, bottom rope breaks.
Oh, no.
First match hasn't even hit the ring yet, and the bottom rope's broke.
Jeez.
We manage, while the opposing team is making their way to the ring, to get the bottom rope completely off the ring.
Okay.
The two teams wrestle the entire first match with no bottom rope. Not sagging, gone.
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 Wow.
We're sitting there. We're trying to fix the ropes. I look at my colleague, Chris Rodell. We look at each other going, well, that's not good. And I remember going back in the locker room, and there was a gentleman by the name of Walking Reality Dan Walsh.
Okay.
Name you might be familiar with, especially if you followed MTV Road Rules. He was on the season with Mike Mizanin, known now as The Miz. Very accomplished comedian, decorated military veteran. Shout out to Dan Walsh, very well-known comedian on the West Coast now.
Right.
I remember going back there and it's like, yeah, Mr. Walsh, sir, I need you to go out there and talk about your match tonight. It's like, well, how much time do I have? And about the time he got the word have out, his music is hitting. His boots aren't tied. His boots aren't to his ankles. He has like the foot pieces tied. Manages to get just enough to get his boots tied up to where they'll stay up. Pulls his running pants over his boots. Cuts a promo, comes backstage, and just about loses the boot as he hits the curtain.
Wow.
So, again, it's one of those where when you sit down and look at it, I mean, the road stories are great. I mean, everything, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Wow. I want to get into the Hall of Fame of 2026 here real quickly, but I have a few more questions. If you have time for that, then we'll move into
let's roll. This is Drop the
right.
Mic. This is Huge Pop Entertainment, man. We're gonna go. If we got to go till midnight, 1 o'clock, I'm ready to go. As long as I can get a cup of coffee, I'm ready to do this.
Perfect. So I am on my way up to Iowa, like we talked about, to a brand new promotion called DCW. I'm sorry, Dub City Wrestling out of Dubuque, Iowa. You know, and I have a question. You know, you've worked in many promotions. You've helped, launch some promotions. What do you think, if you had any suggestions for the new promotion, what are some mistakes that you would hope that they wouldn't make out of experience of what you've done in the business?
Number one, don't overbook talent. A lot of wrestling companies want to have 30, 35, 40 people on your first show. No. Make sure you have enough to make things go, and don't have tons of extra people on your event, because at the end of the day, it's a business and it's more expense to have all those people come in.
Okay.
Number two. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Number two, the idea of don't make it a point to do 100% of your own promotion on the internet. Okay. It's easy. It's simple. But I'm going to tell you right now, the ones even in 2026 that draw the biggest houses are the ones that put out posters, are the ones that do TV and radio stories. The opportunity again, and I mean, again, to give you an idea here, going back into my fortress of things, this right here that I keep in my office, this is an article from a company called Mid-America Extreme Pro Wrestling, and this, as a matter of fact, was 2004. You look at the bottom. Who's that?
Who is that? Oh, wait.
That's Mischief.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Mischief. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Give you an idea. When that story comes out, given her reputation at the time, she was still pretty well known here in the St. Louis area. And the idea of where you have those faces there, you have those wrestlers that know what's going on. You got to be able to promote. Number 3, and it's simple, and it sounds bad. If you don't have the money, don't run the event. I know there's a lot of promoters that have been, as the metaphor has been, hot dog and a handshake. And that's what puts the wrestling industry so far behind the times. If you're going to put on an event, you better make sure you have the money to put on the event. Because I'll tell you right now, if I come to your first show and you're not going to pay me, you won't see me on show 2.
Right.
I mean, that's the way it is. I feel very fortunate in nearly 40 years. I've only been shorted on pay 3 times. And I'll tell you right now, both times, because it was 2 promotions, and both times I said, you don't pay me again, it's the last time we do business.
Right.
And when I walked in the next show, they had all my back pay in an envelope.
Wow.
I mean, those are the big things there. One other thing too is, and again, it's not necessarily just a promotional thing, make sure you've got training. There are a lot of promotions that, oh, I heard from so-and-so that I can do this and this and this. No. There are a lot of great training facilities all across this country. When you talk about in the St. Louis area, you've got the Dynamo Pro Dojo, you've got WLW out in the greater Troy, Eldon area. If you look down in Texas, you got places like Reality of Wrestling. You've got Coastal Championship Wrestling down in Florida. You've got Black and Brave Academy up in Davenport, Iowa. You've got the Steel Domain from back in the day. You've got places like an NXT. You've got countless other places where you can go and get trained, because this industry is a contact sport. People get hurt. Even if you know how to fall, you know how to do all these things, you still get hurt.
Right.
And that's the thing, is a lot of people, and again, it's bad when you see things like a Botchamania, where I remember a couple from Tosh.0. I remember watching a video, matter of fact, last night, of wrestlers who'd been in the industry and had training and had serious life-altering, and in a couple cases, life-ending injuries.
Wow.
Go out there, and you got to understand that this is a business. Men and women have bled, sweat, and, to use the flairism, paid the price to be in this industry. If you don't take the time to take this seriously, you're going to take food and money off of somebody's plate.
Real, yeah.
And that's not the case. You need to go out there and make sure that you are capable of doing what you're supposed to do, and do it in a way that's safe, and you know full well that at the end of the day, even though it is a contact sport, you win, you get that little bit more money. You lose, you get the experience, and you move on down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a co-host on our Tuesday show. His name is Rico. We call him Reek. He's beginning to want to get into the referee business of the wrestling sport. Okay, so can you talk to us about what that role is required by you, and what kind of what's the most important skill you need to develop to be a referee?
Wow, that's a pretty loaded question there. And I know we got a lot of people who've been there. One of the things that referees, and again, before I even go into it, I use this analogy, and I've heard a few people say it. A good referee can make a match great.
Mm-hmm.
A bad referee can take The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania and flush it down the toilet.
Okay.
That's one thing I felt very fortunate in, the idea of where referees, and a lot of people have talked about it, and I've seen a lot of people like your Jimmy Corderases, like your Justin Credibles, like your Hebner brothers, like my colleague Jim Harris, like Tom Simon, like the late Bama Bodine, like a friend of mine, Michael Crace, among others. When you're a referee, you are the third body in that ring. You have to be able to know what's up. You need to be able to know what's going on physically with the wrestlers. You've got to be kept in the know on the time. You've got to make sure that you know where to be. You got to make sure you know where you're not on camera, because the great referees, you never see them on camera because they're always out the way. And when you have all those things, another one is you got to be aware. True story. One of the first matches I refereed, gentleman managed to get over the guardrail and tried to get in the ring. And in the process of it all, I was taught, you're the last line of defense before somebody's going to get hurt. And it was ironic that I stumbled and I managed to get my hip right on the middle rope. And the guy wound up sitting on the apron and security could take care of him. Referees, there's a lot they need to know. And I know there's a lot of training schools that put their referees through the same kind of training that referees do, or that wrestlers do, because you're going to wind up getting incidental contacts. You might get poked in the eye. You might wind up, and I speak from experience, I've eaten clotheslines. I've wound up getting splashed in corners. I've been hit with chairs. I've had situations where I had somebody knock me out. And I mean, again, it's contact sport. You got to understand that things can happen. In reference to the one where I got knocked out, it was a matchup here in St. Louis between Brandon Aarons and Eric Allen, the pride of Peoria. And Eric Allen came in and he had one of those hinge knee braces on, and he hit me right on the temple. And I saw that pretty little light flash. I don't remember falling out of the ring. I've even watched the footage back. I don't remember falling out of the ring. I don't remember hitting the apron. I don't remember hitting the floor. The next thing I remember was a gentleman by the name of the Don Mega Shorty Biggs trying to pick me up, and he was sounding like the teacher from the old Peanuts cartoon. And again, it was one of those until probably about 15, 20 minutes later in the locker room, I realized what had happened, and it's like you got knocked out. But I mean, again, when you want to be a referee, you got to understand there's a lot of road stories here. And you know what? Let's look at what Jim Harris says here. Train as hard as any wrestler. Train on knowing your talent and how to keep the crowd into matches and handle any business that's not supposed to be in the ring. You got to know when to take it home and have the trust of the promoter. Jimmy Harris, right on point. Again, that's one of those where when it comes down to it, referees have got to know everything of what's going on. They're the utility people. They're going to be the idea of you're going to know exactly what's up. I mean, again, a lot of people talk about when somebody gets hurt, you got to be able to communicate those kinds of things. I've seen referees, matter of fact, a few months ago, when a gentleman by the name of Jackal won the Dynamo Pro Heavyweight Championship, about 5 minutes in, one of the competitors fell, knocked the wind out of himself, couldn't even get back to his knees. And it's the idea of where he's looking around. He's like, okay, we had 4. We're down to 3 now. And again, it's one of those where you got to be aware, because you are not only the safety for the wrestlers, but you're also looking out for them as well. And again, I'll tell you right now, when you look at referees, I mean, again, growing up, guys like Tommy Young, like Scrappy McGowan, like the Hebners, like Joey Morella, among others. Those are the referees that knew what they were doing.
Right.
And again, I felt very fortunate that in my years in the wrestling industry, I've had a lot of great referees. Again, all the ones that I mentioned, and even some of the ones I trained who've gone on. A gentleman that I know trained under me, a gentleman by the name of H.D. Daniels, a man that I knew was going to do great things in wrestling. And within 3 years, he's already been to WLW and OVW.
Wow.
He's already gone farther in the wrestling industry in a lot of avenues than I'll ever go. And he's getting regular Wednesday night calls to go down to Louisville and referee for OVW.
Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome.
It's one of those you sit there and look at it and say, you learn from everybody. Doesn't matter 20 years in the business or 2 matches in the wrestling industry. And a matter here, Jimmy Harris was also a great referee. Very true on that. Jim Harris was great. Terry Riley, Bobby Patton, Bama Bodine, Butch Fletcher. I'd go on and on. But again, referees, they've got to have their act together, and they've got to know what's going on at all times.
So the independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame bridges the gap between old school territory history and the current indie realm right now. Is that a true fact?
I would say when it comes to the independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, what you're looking at is you're looking at those individuals who have put in their time. You see things like the WWE Hall of Fame. You see things like the TNA Hall of Fame. You see things like when they had the ROH Hall of Fame, among others. Those are wrestlers that are going from town to town every night. A lot of times they're doing 15, 16,000, 20,000 seat venues, and they're going town to town every night. I get it. Proud of those that go out there and do that. But there are wrestlers who make it a point that they do the best that they can, and they never make it to that level. But wrestlers that can go out there and wrestle, and I'll be honest, there are still wrestlers that are on the independent scene today who are wrestling 4 and 5 and 6 nights a week and are able to make a living from the world of independent wrestling. I mean, there's one that sticks out in my mind, and again, I want to give him a shout out, a gentleman by the name of Warhorse. Man, I know very well. Matter of fact, one of his first matches ever, I had an opportunity to be here in St. Louis for it. And to see him be able to go and travel to all these different places and make a living from pro wrestling, that shows that even though it's 2026 and it's all high tech and it's all these two and a half flips into a hurricanrana through a flaming thumbtack encrusted table, but there are wrestlers that can still go out there and tell the story. And when you look at the inductees for this year, all these individuals, I would tell you right now, I would not be where I am today. And there are countless promotions to this day that would not be around if it weren't for these inductees.
And we're going to get into that real soon. I want fans that are watching this show that will watch it later on. Our guest, Luke Roberts, has worked with some of the greatest. Like I'm just going to name them. I highlighted these names: Adam Pearce, Samoa Joe, Greg Valentine, Cowboy Bob Orton, the Young Bucks, Awesome Kong. One of that I want to hear your experience with this, man, because I'm in Panama. I'm in the Panhandle of Florida, and this young man is part of the promotion XICW, Extreme Impact Wrestling, ran by Adrian Whisper, Damian Wayne from Tennessee, John Saxon, Jackson Slade, who's been on Power Slap, those guys. But this guy, I'm going to say his name, Bordell Walker. What a worker. What a worker, man. And I got to give that guy some credit. Every time I go to the XIW arena, he's there and he's busting people in their chops. He's putting on a show. He's interacting with fans. What is your experience about with Bordell Walker?
Well, I'm going to tell you this one, and you're going to appreciate this one. First of all, want to give a shout out to a company called USA Championship Wrestling, which later became a part of the Prentice Wrestling conglomerate. Rest in peace, Burt Prentice, as well. Burt Prentice brought me in as a favor to a friend of mine, a gentleman named Tom Simon. And I refereed a match, and it was Wardell Walker taking on a gentleman who many knew as the Colorado Kid, Mike Rapata. and I was told what was going on. And we were wrestling in an old movie theater. So there was a gap, probably maybe 5 feet between the ring apron and the stage. And I was told that if Wardell Walker catches me when that hand hits 3, I'm going to get hurt. So everything goes 1, 2, 3, pinfall's done. By the time I'm on the stage, Wardell's already out of the ring and grabbing at my feet.
Oh.
I'm running back to the locker room. I ran almost.
Technical difficulties, guys. Hopefully he'll come back on. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was on my end, but we're gonna get into the. Here he is. We're gonna get into the Hall of Fame. There we go. I don't know what happened. We froze up for a second.
You know, I'm just gonna put it simple. Referee to match with Wardell Walker. I was told if I was in the ring when I counted 3, he was gonna catch me. He was gonna hurt me. By the time I was on the stage, he was already following me, ran all the way through the building, had nowhere else to go. Here's Wardell Walker, and he's there. He's got his fist drawn. It's like, I told you I'd catch you.
Nice.
And then proceeded to give me the biggest hug he could possibly give. And I'm like, whew. But I got to tell you this right now. Wardell Walker is the man. Simple as that. You can't discredit the man. He is that good.
Yeah, he is. He's really good. So you held up a plaque. I want to give you credit for the achievements that you made. So you were an inductee to the 2025 Hall of Fame, and you also received an award at the Cauliflower Alley Club. So I want to give you credit for that. I give you an acknowledgement for that. That's amazing feats. If you could show the fans those plaques that you got, there's the Hall of Fame one.
Give you an idea. And you're going to see a lot of these on Sunday, July 19th. And I got to share this right here. This is one true story. You can look right here, Cauliflower Alley Club. Want to give you an opportunity here. This was in September of 2022.
Wow.
You hear a lot of stories about playing the game of cribbage, old school wrestling game. Wrestlers talk about it in the locker room. My dad, love my dad to death, no longer with us. That was our game. That was our jam, as the kids say nowadays.
Yeah.
And one of the things I told him when he's getting older, he was having a lot more health issues. I'm like, Dad, if I ever get a chance to go to the CAC, I'm going to plump my money down. I'm going to get in that tournament, and I'm going to bring home a championship from it.
Wow.
And I got there, and a gentleman running the tournament, who's now also as part of Trago Stes, gentleman by the name of Bulldog Bob Brown Jr.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bob here. I know he's watching from the Pacific Northwest. And I told him, dude, I got to get in this. I got to see what's there. And it was a 2-day tournament. And the end of the first night, everybody's like, so who's Bob going to defeat this year? And Bulldog goes up to the mic. Bob's not in the tournament anymore. Crowd goes, and he got beat. He got beat twice in a row. And it was that guy right there. And I'm sitting there in the Cauliflower Alley Club the first night, and I'm like, nowhere else to go, man. Pulled the Hogan. Start listening to the crowd, listening to all the boos. Wind up, second day, wind up coming in second place. Kind of bummed me out, but the Bulldog pulls me aside and says, "Hey, just to let you know, board decided last year we're going to give top 2 places an award." I'm like, sweet, I got what I wanted. So I get up there, and first thing is I'm sitting there with one of my media friends, and he starts giving Medusa Michelli a whole bunch of grief. Mental note: don't give Medusa grief; it will wind up coming back to haunt you.
Yeah, I bet.
And I get up there, and they announce me for second place. And before I even get a chance, I walked over. I gave Bob Orton a present. I went. I got my plaque, got my pictures, went back to my desk or my seat. Bob Orton comes up to me and is like, "Thank you, friend." I'm like, "No problem, Bob." And proceeded for about 30 minutes just to kind of sit and chill with Bob Orton. And that's one of the things that's great too. Although a lot of people go to different cons and they go to different things like that, like WWE World, things like that. Go to those things, but also go to things like the Cauliflower Alley Club in Vegas, caulifloweralleyclub.org. Check out the Tragos Hall of Fame in Waterloo, Iowa. Check out the International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame up in New York. Shout out to Seth Turner and all the great guys up there as well. Those things are going to give you so much knowledge. And again, it's just another thing to add on the wonderful list of things that you can accomplish there. And again, wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
So we're gonna transition into the Independent St. Louis Hall of Fame Class of 2026 induction ceremony, which is on July 19th at Andre's Banquet Center. $30 each in advance or $35 at the door. So before we play before we play the video, I have a couple questions about the Hall of Fame. What was the specific reason this Hall of Fame was created or started?
Well, that's a very good question. The Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame was created for the idea of recognizing the contributions of all walks of life in the professional wrestling industry. As I said earlier on, there's a lot of wrestlers who are not going to get the opportunity to be in the WWE or TNA or an AEW. But one of the things to look at is this. In our mission statement, each inductee has given countless years of their life in the pursuit of success in professional wrestling and the entertainment of millions of pro wrestling fans. And when we created the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, it was because of the idea that there are wrestlers that have given so much of their time, their energy, their blood, their sweat, their tears, all the things that you hear. And to have a Hall of Fame to recognize those individuals who've gone out and done what they need to do to cement their legacy. And I really like in the comment that a fellow inductee, Jeremy Lightfoot, brought up. When it comes down to it, when you hear a person's reaction or a person's music, or you hear their name, or you see something that they bring to the ring, or they have a manager that comes with them, when there's something you can identify and right then and there, you've got that reaction, that's when you know you're doing your job. And all the men and women who have been a part of the Hall of Fame and will one day be a part of the Hall of Fame have all given of that tradition, that legacy of being inside the squared circle. And as we said, leave it all on the table. And when you look at the class, especially the class of 2026, you've got another great class. And as I told a lot of the younger wrestlers this past weekend, you may not know who these guys necessarily are, but if you can attend the Hall of Fame and hear the stories and hear what they've done for this industry and sit down and talk with them, you're going to learn more in one day over a meal and a ceremony than you ever would learn in a lot of cases inside the professional wrestling ring.
Wow. So wrestling is not only what keeps wrestling going is its fans. I believe that you wrestlers, you referees, me as a podcast guy, we love the fans. We want to hear what the fans have to say. So the question is, how important, how valuable are the fans? I think I read the fans get a vote, if I'm correct. No.
When we look at the Hall of Fame, we know who the fans go to see. You have fans that come out each and every time to shows. You know who's getting the reaction. You know what's there, and people can bring their recommendations to the board. That's one of the things that's so good about our board of directors is they don't cover just one promotion. They cover a variety of different promotions. And that's one of the things that makes the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame stand out. And I don't mean this as a knock in any way, shape, or form to a WWE or a TNA or a Game Changer Wrestling. Actually, to be honest with you, the Game Changer Wrestling Indie Hall of Fame is probably the closest in comparison because of the idea of wrestlers go out there and they wrestle for a lot of promotions. They go out there and they are, as the name says, independent. And when you can acknowledge those contributions, and again, if you go and look at our website, there are a lot of individuals who are a part of the Midwest Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame. There are people who are a part of the MMWA Hall of Fame. There are people that are a part of the RCW Hall of Fame. There are people who are a part of the CHWA Hall of Fame. There are people who've run or who've earned awards from Dynamo Pro Wrestling. There are countless different halls of fame, and we don't shy away from acknowledging those because those are things that those individuals have done to cement their legacy. I mean, we talked earlier about Herb Simmons winning awards at the Cauliflower Alley Club. You've got people like from the Missouri Wrestling Revival who've been recognized for awards. We acknowledge them all because that's a part of what that person has brought to professional wrestling. And again, when you look at our Hall of Fame from top to bottom, the accomplishments, the accolades that these individuals have gotten have made it a point to take care of what's there.
So I've read, and I wanted to make sure this is true. Are there reports true that their plaques are being converted into a traveling wall for the Hall of Fame?
That's one of the things that we look at, and actually right now I know that our executive director has been actually looking into the idea, and we're going to be able to have more this year. One of the ultimate dreams of the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame is actually having a standalone facility. There are, I mean, again, if you look at it this way, just simple math, let's say 15 promotions, and you have 30 wrestlers per promotion. Again, that'd be individual. Again, that's 450 wrestlers.
Right.
It's a lot of wrestlers, a lot of miles.
Yeah.
And the idea of where can you sit back and look at, just like at the Trago says, when you can go back and you can look at things like the AWA World Tag Team titles. You get the opportunity to look at things like a bronze casting of Harley Race's boot. One of the things we've actually gone through, and when you see like the WWE's Lost Treasures. One of the things, and ironically, we're going to talk about him in just a minute. One of our inductees actually has, or one of our past inductees has Johnny Ramirez's last pair of boots.
Wow, that's crazy.
You have things like one of the things that I have, one of my jackets from when I was a president of an organization. I had a custom made jacket like a Jimmy Hart. People like Jeremy Lightfoot who would wear the full Native American headdress. Douglas O'Shea with his Irish flag. That's one of the things we're looking at. We're also looking at the idea of trying to find old championships from back in the day, because St. Louis is a hotbed for pro wrestling. And to be able to see these things and see what makes pro wrestling so important today, just another reason why fans stay fans, because they can see what the true history of professional wrestling is here in St. Louis. Matter of fact, too, just had one in the process of doing the research for this year's Hall of Fame. There was a gentleman from the Missouri Museum of Military History who actually provided us a copy of an article showing Lou Thez showing wrestling moves and wrestling training to soldiers here in an Army depot in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
And again, one of those things shows why wrestling's so important, because you would never know that happen.
No.
But again, showing the importance, just like the WWE's doing, the independent wrestling's the same thing, but it's even more of a challenge because you don't know where everybody comes from.
My referee shirt with my mother and my mother-in-law on my sleeves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's one too that I'm hoping I can get one of my longtime refereeing colleagues. He made an agreement with a member of our management team that if I forgot what the goal was, is that he would come to ring and referee for an entire show in a bedazzled ref shirt.
Okay.
And they met the goal. And the idea was that on every black stripe of the shirt, there were, I think, like 15 set stones on each of the black stripes of the shirt.
That's awesome.
To hold the point. Again, things you would never imagine, but things that have their place in history.
There you go. So I'm going to play the video that you sent me. I want people to watch this. And then we're going to go into some slides where we're going to talk about the inductees of the 2026 Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. So here we go. That was an amazing video, which leads us into our next part. We're going to see some slides. We're going to talk about the inductees, individuals, for a little bit. So, but first we got Jim Harris says, we got old posters. My mother and my mother-in-law passed from cancer, and I carried them into the matches with me. That is that's amazing stuff, guys. This is what wrestling's really about, guys. If those that are watching, so.
Very true. Like I said, as we look here at the Hall of Fame, all these inductees bring their own story. I mean, again, wrestling is about telling stories. And each of these individuals is bringing their own story to the Hall of Fame. And as we said here, we're going to take a second here and we're going to look at our inductees. Matter of fact, you're going to be able to see right here on the screen a little bit about each of our inductees. And Mr. Pop, if you would be so kind, if you can go ahead, we can go ahead and throw up the first graphic here, talking about the class of 2026. And when you look at the first graphic that we have here, as it relates to two individuals who definitely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, you have Big Bad Ben and Marcus Mansfield. Now, in the case of Big Bad Ben, he was known for being the promoter and the owner of Gateway Championship Wrestling. For those that don't know how important Gateway Championship Wrestling is, without Gateway Championship Wrestling, you don't have the likes of a Daisy Hayes, a Mischief, a Matt Seidel, a Delirious, a Dingo, among others. When you look at Marcus Mansfield, the same thing as we see here in the case of Marcus Mansfield, a man who not only co-founded one promotion, but actually co-founded 3 different promotions. The Central States Wrestling Alliance, alongside the guidance of the legendary Bob Geigel, Midwest Powerhouse Wrestling, and American Championship Wrestling, which he actually was involved with when he unfortunately passed away from cancer a few years ago. Both these men, in the case of Big Bad Ben, he knew what talent was. It's as simple as that. He was an athletic big man that knew what needed to be done inside the squared circle. Also, to his credit, the first man to wrestle in an exploding ring match here in the state of Missouri. Marcus Mansfield was one of the first to give me a chance to wrestle for a championship belt. But the same token, too, in the case of Marcus Mansfield, he was a man's man in every step of the word. Not only would he tell you what you were doing right, but he would show you what to do better. And also, if you've ever had an opportunity, go back and watch a WWE Hall of Fame induction of one Kane. Marcus Mansfield's mentioned in that Hall of Fame speech. Right here, missed a pop. Right then and there, two individuals who definitely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, when you look at the next three, Steve Montana, a man who's held countless championships, but also a man who took his knowledge to the silver screen. He's a member of the Screen Actors Guild after his career in professional wrestling was over. The Beast, known for his hardcore style, 36 plus years in the wrestling industry, competing all over the country, competed internationally. Butch Fletcher, Black Glove to many of his friends, over 30 years in the wrestling industry. Manager, promoter, referee. Again, he was proud of the idea that he actually was wrestled in 3 different countries. Wow. So when you look at these 5 right here, and again, doing some quick math as we talk here, let's see, 36, and then you got 30s at 66. Big Bad Ben, you're looking at making that to, let's see here, we got 66 here. Again, my math's kind of going off today. We got, let's see, 36. We've got, I'll be safe and say at least 100 years of knowledge between the 5 inductees.
Wow. Ready for the next one?
Yeah, I'm ready for the next one, because one of the things that makes the Hall of Fame stand out here at the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame is we have recognitions for those that are not necessarily in-ring competitors. The one we have here is what's called the Pete Parisi Award. Now, for those that aren't familiar in the St. Louis area, Pete Parisi was the trendsetter. He was the one, as they say, that broke the mold when it came to recording professional wrestling. And Tom Simon is going to be inducted this year under this award. Spent nearly 3 decades in the wrestling industry. He's refereed and announced the Cauliflower Alley Club. He's been at the Hall of Fame in Waterloo, Iowa. He's a former referee. He's also a lifetime Cauliflower Alley Club member. He also is responsible now for singing the national anthem at the Cauliflower Alley Club events. And what a lot of people don't know is that not only, besides all these things that he did inside the squared circle, he was an accomplished musician, and he started his career not in pro wrestling, not in music, but as an announcer for roller derby. Really? So when you sit there, you look at what's here, Tom Simon brings a lot of knowledge to the table, and as an extra added bonus, like I said, he has been to countless different promotions throughout not only the St. Louis area, but throughout the Midwestern United States as well. The last 2 we're going to talk about here are the President's Awards, and these 2 gentlemen really deserve these awards. Johnny Ramirez, for those that aren't familiar, accomplished referee, accomplished in-ring competitor. If you get a chance to look on YouTube, the man, the credentials he's had, he's wrestled the likes of Bob Geigel, he's wrestled Big Bill Miller, he's wrestled the likes of Skandor Akbar, he's wrestled countless different individuals. Then he moved on to the world of refereeing, was a very accomplished referee. The other President's Award is Key on Option. And this one's very, very close to home for me, because Key on Option, former Dynamo Pro Tag champion, lots of different promotions in the St. Louis area, but this man's life was cut short. passed away at the age of 30. And when you look at things here, and we're going to have an opportunity here in the next few days to share the video on key on option, a man who in his time on this earth had a bachelor's degree in psychology, master's degree in public administration, Army National Guard officer candidate, former president of the college chapter of the NAACP at the University of Missouri, a founder and national fraternity president of Alpha Omega Theta Christian Fraternity. And he actually in 2016 ran for the Missouri House of Representatives.
Wow.
This was a man who, in every stretch of the word, not only did he make you a better person inside the ring, but he made just that much of a better person outside the ring. And again, when you look at this Hall of Fame class, a lot of people will say, oh, the class of 2025, it was great. It was this, that, and whatnot. I'm going to tell you right now, this class of the 2026 Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame is a class that if you get the opportunity, if you're anywhere near the St. Louis area and you can come up and purchase your ticket, $30 in advance, $35 day of the event. I'm going to tell you right now, as you see right here on the screen, class of 2026, July 19th, 2026. You can make it a point. Andres Banquet Center, 4254 Telegraph Road here in St. Louis, Missouri. Zip code is 63129. And again, as we look at things here, the doors will open at 12:30. The event starts at 1. Tickets 30 in advance, 35 at the door. And to give you an idea, you also get a meal besides the induction ceremony as well. And again, for more information about the Hall of Fame or tickets, istlwhof.com. You'll be able to get an opportunity to see all of the inductees and learn a little bit more about what makes the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame so important to the history of professional wrestling.
Man, it's been my pleasure, my honor to sit here with the man, Luke Roberts, and hear his stories of his career over decades, from a referee to a promoter to an in-ring wrestler, sharing stories about Harley Race, sharing locker room stories, sharing advice of how to get into the business and what to do while you're in the business, whether it's a fan, whether it's a wrestler, whether it's a promoter, whether it's a referee, whether it's, if you want to start your own promotion. He had several things that he said about everybody. Jimmy Harris finishes up. Every class is unique and amazing people, and all are deserving. Absolutely, man. As a fan, as a podcast guy, I have to give credit to those guys that you just listed. I will be honest with you. Some of those names I knew, some of those names I don't. But you know what? Those names I don't, I understand, paved the way for us in the business today. Even us guys in the podcast, in the commentating stuff, there's people out there that paved the way for us. And if we're not gonna take advice from them or look at them and study them, what's going on in our heads, right? You guys,
very true. And to give you an idea here, and again, one of a few other things to show off right here. We talked about this at the top of the show. If we went on the air, right here, this right here is the official championship belt of the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. And one of the things that makes it stand out, I don't know if we can get it on a good shot here on the camera, as you see here, it's not just side plates. It has the names of countless different promotions in the St. Louis area that have paved the way for professional wrestling. Another thing, too, and I'm going to tell you right now as it stands, there are a lot of great things that are happening. Last year, the inductees they received a letter from the Tragos Hall of Fame. They were recognized by the Missouri State Department of Athletics, which we all have to be licensed by in order to compete in the state of Missouri. And ironically, all of our inductees last year were actually given their own day in the city of St. Louis. And I'm going to tell you right now, from what's there, if that wasn't enough besides their induction, I'm going to tell you right now, there's more coming this year that's going to make all the contributions, all the hard work, all the sacrifice that these men and women that are in the Hall of Fame, all those years of dedication, work, and sacrifice, it's time for them to be acknowledged. And the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame is that place to be acknowledged and to be given, as some people say nowadays, the chance to be given your flowers on the biggest stage that you can be.
So independent St. Louis Hall of Fame, class of 2026, July 19th on a Sunday at Andre's Banquet Center, 4254 Telegraph Road, St. Louis, Missouri, 63129. You can get your tickets at the door for $35 or in advance for $30 by going to the website of www.istlwhof.com. And there's you get your tickets. I can't make it this year, but I will do my damnedest to come to St. Louis sometime between 2026, 2027 to check out what is up there. You know, I got Florida, who's down in South. There's a lot of wrestling down in Florida, but I knew that you guys have that. It's called the hotbed for a reason. You guys are loaded with promotions, loaded with talent. Thank you so much, Luke, for being on the show. I want to talk to you afterwards, so don't go nowhere. I'm going to play the exit, but I want to just tell people, look out if you want to follow Luke Roberts. Where can they find you at, man?
Right now, if you want to follow me, the best place to find me is on Facebook. You can look up Referee Luke Roberts. I mean, again, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You can find me there. And also, as a reminder, too, make it a point, and I'm just going to tell you right now, not only to like, subscribe, hit the bell for the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. Make it a point. Like and subscribe. Huge Pop Wrestling Entertainment. Drop the mic. Make your point to go ahead and follow these guys because they are giving you each and every episode is bringing you the best in professional wrestling. They're giving you the opportunity to see what professional wrestling is like on a national stage. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not able to make it, you can't buy your tickets. I'm going to tell you right now, we've already started working. There's a lot of great things in the works for 2026. And I'll tell you right now, if you're not able to make it to the St. Louis area, do not be disappointed because in the immediate future, I hope I'll be able to come back on the program with another major announcement. Last year, we were standing room only. And this year, with the support of the great wrestling fans, we're going to do that again. And with the great help of people like Drop the Mic, like Huge Pop Wrestling Entertainment, we're going to be ready to go. And we're going to be doing things the way and showing the respect of professional wrestling the way it needs to be.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I do want to give one person a shout out because this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Matt Classic Creed, AIWF. Matt Classic Creed, he shot Luke Roberts my name. Mr. Roberts sent me a message, and we put this together. So, Matt Classic Creed, thank you so much for that. Luke Roberts, I appreciate your time. At Huge Pop Entertainment fans, thank you for shouting out in the chat. Hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel. And see you next time. Tune in tomorrow night. The nephew of Bret Hart, Mike Hart, will be on the show. As for now, that's Huge Pop Entertainment, and we're out.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5,